to another episode of Pod Leaders from Thornton Gregory. Thanks so much for joining us. We have the wonderful Massimo with us today, who is currently the global head of travel at AWS, across travel and hospitality, I do believe, actually. But we'll go into that in a bit more detail. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me here. Happy to be here.
Is a real treat. It is a real treat. So, we just want to run through your background, if we may, Massimo, and just your wonderful journey to be sat here at AWS today. I just wanted to run through how that all started.
So I'm Massimo Morin. I'm the global head of travel here at AWS. I started the travel and hospitality practice 7.5 years ago. It was a two-people army that tried to convince the travel and hospitality company that the old way of doing business wasn't cutting it anymore, and they should embrace the cloud. So I I've seen the world changing under my eyes. I have seen the pandemic. I have seen the rise of large organizations like the Booking, the Expedia, the United, the Ryanair, and so forth that are actually shaping the today of travel. Before joining AWS, I was actually at Google. I was a technical director there. I launched Google Flight and Hotel Ads in EMEA, and that has been also a fascinating journey. I was actually in living in Amsterdam at that time. I lived for 6 years in Amsterdam, and also that it was an interesting dynamic to see how Google is approaching travel, how different is the Amazon approach to travel, and what are the expectations of the customer. Before that, going backward in time, I was
Yeah.
at ITA Software here in Boston. I'm still living in Boston now. And ITA Software is one of those US unicorn that invented airline pricing and shopping. Our first customer was actually Orbitz when Orbitz
Yeah.
started back in 2000. And we invented the comparison shopping. So you can start putting side by side flights, and you can actually see all in a single go all the possible flight option that when you want to go, for example, from Boston to London, and now you can start comparing prices. I was there the first customer consulting engineer, so I was actually bridging the knowledge gap between our customer and our engineering team.
Right.
Uh, as any large technology corporation, engineers are the most prized assets, and therefore we want to make them as productive as possible. Not every engineer knows travel, knows how airline operate, how hotel operate, and OTA operates, and therefore they needed somebody that could actually translate those requirements. So I've been involved both on pre-sales, post-sales, deployment, implementation, and so forth, and that has been a great time. But where everything started was actually back in mid 90. I graduated University of Venice. I as a software engineer, and I always had a passion for travel. I actually studied operation research, and my master thesis was the evaluation of the quality of service offered by airports. And
Amazing.
yeah, and we did
It's
a couple of.
impressive.
Mhm. So, for example, how wide should the corridor be? Or when should you open the check-in? Or where should you position the ticketing? Or the security check, what should be the profile depending of the opening and closing, how many people you should put there, depending on how many flights you have, how many people are showing up, the type of people that are coming, are they business, are they family, are they group, and so forth. So we actually use that work to plan Malpensa 2000, the airport of Milan, the largest airport in Milan. As you might hear from my accent, I'm not British. I'm actually Italian, and that was a particularly telling experience because I was the first time I was able to get in touch with this fascinating industry. One thing that I learned is that every small impact, actually every small change that you make on this industry has an outsized impact, and that is the things that fascinated me. So in 96 I graduated. In 97 I was looking for a job. and this company in the US called Scheduling System asked me if I wanted to join them and come to Boston and transform the industry, and from the inside out. And that is what I did. In '97, I moved to the US, and I was developing software for a company that developed decision support system for maintenance planning. That is basically determine where the plane should be, where the mechanic should be, the parts should be, to make sure that the maintenance was going to be taken care of,
Yeah.
and the plane could actually go back into service and start moving people around. If you remember, all time, like Northwest was one of our customer, Eastern Airline, and so forth. So there's really ancient system. Then in 2000, I decided to dive deeper into technology and into this sector, and I went to MIT.
Oh,
I
wow.
actually, yeah, I got a master in science of transportation with airline business and operation specialization, and I graduated in August 2001. Not exactly the best time to be in travel.
Bit tricky. Yes.
Yeah, it was. It has been devastating. In fact,
Yeah.
it's like a big awakening when the world is stopping due to terrorist attack, and said, "So what do you do?" And that time, I recall still I was interviewing for this company that doesn't exist anymore called SH&E. They wanted me to be one of their leading technology consultant, and they had a customer down in Cuba, and my Italian background was very relevant because I could travel no problem to Cuba, as opposed of Americans. So we were planning these things. I was on vacation in Italy, and all of a sudden I see the twin tower falling down.
Yeah.
Uh, I was negotiating my salary, so I call the hiring manager, this partner at this company, and I said, "Look, it is really in the moment of need that you can actually see the people that value and can help you actually move forward and transform the organization. So I think that I can actually make a difference for you because I know how to actually be knocked down and uh, stand up again and move forward."
Resilient.
And the
Yeah.
guy said, "Yeah, I like what you said. I would love that. I'm going to lay off half of the company tomorrow. So do you want me to hire and be laid off, or do you want to look for something else?" I said, "Oh, well, I gave it a try."
At least shoot your shot, as they say. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, I
Oh my
understand.
God.
So, and that is when I started working with another company that was in airline operation for a few years, and then I landed ITA Software. So it has been an interesting journey, and I am expecting not to be over yet. I think that
Oh,
there are a lot of opportunities out there. The world is transforming. My usual speech is the industry is constantly on a roller coaster. There is always something happening. It can be as big as a pandemic, but it can be as small, or as small can be a strike, it can be a tornado
yeah.
that is affecting operation, or new disrupting technology like generative AI. So this is a bit of my journey.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for running us through that. That is such a wild ride, and it is amazing always to hear people's career stories and how they are influenced by different things that happen externally to our world, right? So
Mhm.
it's wonderful to hear and just to see how things work through. So so an engineer at heart,
Yeah.
Venice based, went to make your fortune over in the US. That's fantastic. What was it like moving at quite a young age into to another country?
So one of the things that I really like, it's I look at myself in the mirror and says, what makes me go every day is that the curiosity and the enthusiasm that yesterday is different than today and tomorrow is different than today. So I'm trying to find always something that inspire me, that I'm curious with, and that for me was a great opportunity because I always wanted to explore something else. I really wanted to learn something different. My English was terrible. By the way, I was the worst in my English class, and my teacher, every time I was being tested, she was almost crying. She said, "Okay, that will be a good challenge." Um, And also the view that I have to the US was actually fairly interesting. If you remember, in Italy during the 90s, there were a lot of reruns of the TV series, the American TV series of the 80s. So for me, the US was all Miami Vice and Baywatch. So that is what it was.
Running
So I said,
everywhere.
exactly. So I told myself, says, look, it's going to be a great experience. My English is awesome.
Yeah,
So and it's going to be all fast car, fast boat, and lay on the beach. So absolutely, let's go to Boston and
dreamy.
yeah, let's go there. And I came here with literally two suitcases
Oh,
and
wow.
$500 in traveler checks. That is all I had. I came to the US and I landed at the Logan Boston International Airport during the big dig. That, if you guys do not know, it is this massive project in which they overhaul the complete uh, transportation network with the airport and inside Boston. So they were moving all the highway underground. So
Oh,
it's
my
an
word.
open work site. So I'm there, and it was summer, I have to tell you the truth, but certainly not palm trees, fast boat, or beach attire. So and it was a bit shocking, but my boss at that time, John Pararas, he was welcoming and says, look, whatever you need, I'll support you. And I babysit his house during that time
Oh,
because he was on vacation, so I stayed there. And I literally fell in love of how warm people were and the opportunity that I had ahead. I start People found my accent charming instead of concerning. Uh, they found all my mistakes on with my English actually a bit more fun than a bit of a problem. So, and that was great. That is how it went. And I always said myself is, if things don't go well, I can always go back. And
absolutely. Yeah.
I never went back. Always went forward.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah.
What a journey. Love it. So you had a good stint of time with ITA, I can see.
Mhm.
So that must have been that was that your movement into from more like hands-on dev into more solution
Right.
stuff.
So ITA was an interesting company. It's very smart people, and now you start appreciating the colleague that you're working with. They're not only buddies that you go out for drinks or you have a glass of wine, but are actually people that you challenge yourself, and at the same times they're really smart. I remember this gentleman that he's Greg Alpering. Is actually one of the judge on the Math Olympics. So
Oh,
this is what he does. Another Greg Klanderman, developed the software for identifying the whales by the spot that they have on their back. And so I said, on his spare time. And then they look at me and says, what do you do on your spare time? I cook.
wow. Interesting.
And that is the thing. So it was a bit more of a eye opening, the fact that the people that you relate with, the fact that you can learn more from them, and the curiosity come in, how you can do things differently. That was really fascinating. For me, the diversity of the people that you are dealing with, the different cultures, always attracted me. And the other things that I really enjoying is cutting edge technology on one side, and the fact that I can actually, it's not much educate. At the end, it comes out educate, but talking to people, talking to my customers, and explaining what we are doing and understanding what they do and explain it back to my organization. So that has always been fairly humbling and a huge part of my career. It has been being in contact with smart people, doing smart things, talking to people, and learning has always been a big part.
Absolutely. You really do suck in all of that energy around you and all of that good stuff, don't you? It's really good. And was that the place that you were working on the comparison site?
Right. So ITA Software is that this company started from MIT actually, and they. It is funny because Jeremy Withheimer had his girlfriend that was a travel agent, and he was actually looking at how she was actually doing her job. She was going through the green screen that I assume a lot of your listeners are familiar with the
Yeah.
GDSs and so forth. So you start looking at this flight. So you want to go from Boston to London. You look at this flight. You like this flight. No, maybe take a later one. So look at this other flight. Oh, what do you want the return? You come out with the return. You price it is £5,000. Oh, no, no, no. Let's start over. So it always came out with this thing that is there must be a better way. And his way of thinking is, why don't we actually calculate all the possible itinerary? We price them and then we pick the cheapest, because it's really hard to actually start looking at picking the most expensive flight you want. So and if you are able to iterate that process, then you can come out with very clever solutions. So you can get the cheapest, or you can get the fastest if you change the function, the value function you're using. What is your metric you're measuring it? Do you want the cheapest in price or the cheapest in time? So which one is the itinerary that actually is the fastest to get to destination? And it is funny because they were pitching their solution to Amadeus. And when they went there, it says, okay, so tell me what is the fastest way to go to London? So the system start crunching these kind of things. And he says, oh, well, you have to go to Boston to New York and New York to London. And it costs 10,000 pounds to do it. So the guy was shocked. He said, that's not possible. It's impossible. I mean, you are connecting to New York, 10,000 pounds. It's not cheaper, it's not faster. They look at the solution, and they were going to take American Airline to go to, I think it was JFK, and taking the Concorde to go down to London. And
Ah,
that was actually indeed the fastest way to go to London in
absolutely.
around 3.5 hours or something. And people were floored, said, okay, there is something here. So
Absolutely. That was the start of partnerships and alliances.
exactly. Those are the things, right? It makes you think. It says, yeah, there is a reason that came along, and we had a lot of success. American Airline, I think American Airline is still using that solution, QPX, Delta, United, Continental, America West, Alitalia at that time. It doesn't exist anymore. TAP
So,
Portugal, Polish lot. So that and each one of them have different needs and different way of presenting their product to their customers. And I remember interesting conversation in which there was this customer that wanted to present the cheapest solution, the cheapest refundable, the cheapest non-refundable, and the business class. I was in a room with 10 of them. They couldn't agree what a refundable ticket is. I
oh,
said,
okay.
I said, so the customer cares are refundable. You give me my money back. The revenue management guy says, no, 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 no. You pay a penalty, and then it is refundable, and then you get the taxes back. And they said, but I wanted refund. So I have seen them there, and I'm there showing them the fair rules and the solutions. So forth. Okay, this is fully refundable. This is refundable with a penalty and so forth. So even inside the organization, you start understanding how much complexity there is in this space,
Yeah.
and the desire. So information is power. So how to disseminate this information? It seems that this is an industry that is the travel industry in the airline space specifically is thriving into complexity. And that
Yeah.
is one of the things that are always being slowing down innovation, especially these days. If you think
Mm.
about travels, airlines has been a thriving environment, ripe with a variety of innovation. The first mainframe has been used by American Airline in their reservation system, the first IBM system. Revenue management has been invented by the airlines. Loyalty program has been invented by airline. The hub and spoke, the jet engine, all this bundling and the bundling as a la carte has been invented by airline. So great transformation like the low cost carrier, a great invention. We would not have Southwest was started in the 70s, Ryanair started in the 80s, and you see now one of my close friends something that is really telling to me is it wasn't the European Union that made Europe, it was Ryanair. With Ryanair, you can actually live in Italy, have your girlfriend in Germany, and go for a weekend in Paris,
Yeah.
and it costs you nothing. And that is actually connecting people, connecting culture. And I always say we don't give enough credit for this industry of the achievement that they do every day, actually, getting people safe and sound on the other side of the world. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and this is what is happening today. And unfortunately, and it breaks my heart, the fact that the industry is not able to keep up with the
Yeah.
world that is changing around them, and especially on the demand that their customer and expectation that their customer have. My typical example is when I don't even have a car anymore. I live in the city and I take Uber everywhere. So
Oh,
if
that's
I order Uber, yeah, if I order Uber, I have to wait for more than 4 minutes. I'll cancel and order a new one. So think about it, instant gratification. So the expectation of the customer that I call the contact center of an airline because I want to change my flight, and they still ask me for my reservation code, the first name, the last name, the where I'm going. Where I says, look, I mean, you have my phone number. From my phone number, you should see I'm in the middle of a trip, and you should have at least a better understanding where I'm at and why I might be interested in doing. So why don't you help me to get through my destination to do my business by removing all this friction? Unfortunately, the legacy of the systems that are behind it are not helping them to accelerate and serve better the customer as they would like to.
absolutely, absolutely, and we are seeing small bits of change and modularization and different new technology coming in. I mean, AWS being one of the most largest pieces of change over the last
Right.
5 years. So, fingers crossed we can get things moving a little bit smoother for
Well,
everyone.
I'm working on it. I have amazing customer like United, Ryanair, Qantas, Delta, and so forth that are actually taking the technology literally to a different level. But they always have that desire. The challenge is I don't. The feeling and what I hear is they never had a reliable partner that they can actually help them through this journey. Even when I joined Google, so ITA Software got bought by Google for $700 million in 2011. And when that happened, the first things that my customer did, pick up the phone and ask us, can you help us then transform? You are now, you know the industry, you have the backing of a large organization like Google. Help us to do that and break down the data silo, break down the dependency that we have with these established players, and see how we can actually thrive better by leveraging technology that you guys are leveraging at Google. Unfortunately, Google bought ITA Software for creating Google Flight. Their customers were not, Google customers are not the airlines or OTAs. Their customers are the advertisers
Yeah.
and the consumers that are using Google are actually the customers of the advertisers. So this is what is actually happening, and therefore I couldn't help them at that time. But when I joined AWS, I joined Amazon, the culture of this customer obsession, working backward from the customer, the learn and be curious, the ownership, the invent and simplify, all came to me and says, this is actually how we can help our customer. Right? The first airline that I actually met, the two first airline that I met were Southwest and United. And you see United, what they're doing today. They have a variety of mainframe and they are peeling away all the code and deploying it into AWS, reinventing their own business. If you think about even the mobile app of United has been deemed the best mobile app for airline last year at the World Aviation Festival. They do amazing things like if you are connecting and your flight has been delayed, they are actually going to scan the manifest and identify if you are going to make the connection or not. If you are almost making the connection, they actually tell the connecting plane to hold for a few minutes and they guide you through the airport to go to the gate to actually get into the plane. But there are other things like uh, the Share Speaks English is one of my favorite. They actually to bring on board um, to bring on board agent to read the GDS screen. Their own PSS system is shares. They own it.
Oh yeah.
It's all gibberish. So you have a blob of data. It's all the green screen. If you actually go to the airport and you try to make a change or you check in, you see frantically this agent typing on the keyboard. It's interacting with the green screen. So it takes between 6 months and 2 years to become proficient to understand what a green blob says.
Wow.
So they wanted to bring up to speed the agent faster because they do not have all the agent that does before the pandemic. So they trained some generative AI models. They use Anthropic, and they fed some PNRs, 100 PNRs, and they explained what it was. And the system starts learning. And now when you have a PNR, the system tell you, look, Massimo wanted to go down to London. He missed his connection, and we reaccommodated on these things. The bag has been moved, and he's still on the aisle seat that he reserved originally. And just in English, when I saw that, it says that is technology at its best, leveraging the modern technology, remove the legacy, and helping people, helping travelers, and helping agents to do better their job. Those are the things that motivates me every day. But I have tons of example. I love to talk about the Panini Predictor at Ryanair. That it seems that one requirement to have a successful project is to have a cool name, and and this is particularly true for Ryanair. They one of the challenges Ryanair is a point to point. Well, you're familiar. You're in London. It's a point to
Yeah.
point low cost airline. So when they do catering, they can load catering and food into the plane only once a day in the morning where the plane is. So they have to determine what to load. If to load sandwiches, to load teas, to load coffee, and it really depends where the plane is going to go, where it's going to be in the air around some key times like lunchtime or in the morning or in the afternoon, and who is going to be on the plane. Are they going? John Hurley usually say, are they going to be ballerinas or rugby players? So I have to be sure what I'm going to bring in. And if you don't get, funny enough, Ryanair is the largest cheese sandwich seller in Europe because they have a captive audience of 180 million passengers a year. They sell cheese sandwiches.
Jeez.
So it says it's very dissatisfactory for our customer to order a panini, a cheese sandwich, and it not being and having run out, not being on the plane. But at the same time, I have to be careful not to load too many because then I have to throw them away at the end of the day. So we help them with MLEI model to do a prediction of the consumption of food in the cabin, and therefore we were able to reduce waste by over 50% and
Wow.
increase the bottom line by millions of euros because at the end of the day they start selling. These are the little things that makes a difference on on the bigger things, the bigger businesses.
Absolutely.
So the connection saver for United, the Panini predictor at Ryanair, or you can see easy things like EasyJet. Every time they were running a promotion, in the middle of the night, some of the IT folks were being called because the website was crashing. They moved it to AWS, and scalability and resiliency on the systems enable them actually to sleep
Yeah.
tightly at night, that the system simply works. It might be as
Technology
simple as
helping humanity.
it works
Yeah.
than instead of creating talking about very creative things. And one of the things that we have been working a lot recently is the desire for the travel suppliers to really understand the customer, having a coherent single view of the customer. Every time we talk to our customer, it's actually sometimes that it's not even clear what a single view of the customer is. Because you talk to different departments. So loyalty has an understanding that is different than marketing, than sales, revenue management, operation, commercial, and so forth. So there is no problem of activating a single view of the customer. So if you know that Massimo is traveling and I'm traveling for business, it's clear that priority boarding is important unless I am traveling on the airline that I have very high status because I have priority boarding anyway. I do
Yeah.
not check in the bag, and I do not eat food, and I always take non-stop, and I always go in early morning, and I come out in late afternoon to go back home. If that is the situation. If instead I'm traveling for leisure, I'm going with my girlfriend. She obviously has a lot of things to check in. She want to be comfortable. She want to go to the lounge. She's going to be there hours before departure because she's always afraid to miss the flight and so forth. So
Mm.
the product and the service that I'm going to consume when I'm traveling is different. So
Totally different.
yeah, what we found out is that there is no problem of activating. If you know who the customer is, you know what is the product I'm interested on, and you send me the push notification, the email, the notification, the you call me and so forth. If I call, you know what I want and if I want to change my flight. But getting to know the customer is really hard because all the legacy of the system that are locking the customer data, and they are all disjointed. Loyalty has their own loyalty database. CRM has their own data. The PSS has their own data and so forth. So bringing them together, breaking down the silos, aggregating them, duplicating it, and making it accessible and democratize our access using an industry data model in a centralized place. I haven't seen anything out there that does that. And therefore, that is one of the things that we built here at AWS. And we are going out right now I talked to American, I talked to Southwest just this week. United is in process in deploying it. Air Canada is looking into it. Ryanair want to work. I was talking to Make My Trip this morning and said, yeah, we have everything in house, but also this data needs to be aggregated and we need to understand. And the typical question from my customer is, oh, I want to do generative AI. I want to do ML Says, yeah, of course you want. Of course you want to do hyper personalization. Where is the data? What
Yeah.
is the data that you have to make that happen? What is the use case that you have a real ROI and a KPI you can measure so you know you're doing it right? Those are the things that I'm helping them to understand and to walk them through to achieve the objective that they have in mind. How do I do more effective marketing campaign? Like Tweed did using generative AI. Yeah, they can create a marketing campaign in seconds and costing tens of dollars instead of hundreds of thousands. But where is the information that you are training your model? Where is the information about the customer that you want to leverage to actually make this marketing campaign most effective? These are the things we are doing today.
Amazing. I mean, the innovation is unreal.
Yeah,
That's happening. It's so cool to watch, and hear about. I mean, all of those examples were mind blowing. Um, Massimo, thank you so much for running through things. I'm going to be really cheeky and ask you while we're still recording, because I'd love just to steal another half an hour from you another time, because I would love to also just lift the curtain a little bit about what it's like working for these big tech companies, the
sure.
AWS and Googles of the world. That would be such an interesting second edition. I think that'd be fantastic. Thank you for talking through all of the changes that are going to be, fingers crossed, taken on board and used in the coming months. And your journey is quite a cool one as well. So I really appreciate you doing that. I've got
Thank
a
you so
couple
much.
of really
Yeah.
quick fire questions for you,
Yes,
just
please.
so everybody can get to know you a little bit more. So,
Okay.
do you have a favorite piece of tech that you're using at the moment? Anything on the phone or?
I am an avid reader of pretty much everything. So I'm reading a lot of the news. Even this morning, I was reading The Economist. So I go on The Economist all the time. I found that it is really interesting to understand what is happening around the world. So I'm reading that. My Kindle is full of books that I read all the time, but I read a lot of fiction too. So
Mm.
I wanted to get a very light-hearted books. I read a lot of Mark Cameron. I read Lee Child, so I know everything about Jack Reacher. So when the
Yeah.
TV came out, I already knew everything. I knew what was going to happen. I read the book multiple times. So those are the things. So I'm constantly attached to the phone. But one thing I particularly like is, I mean, for our digital, I still like my business cards, and I still like to go around and give the analog, the personal touch of this thing. So
That's
I would invite everybody says, yeah, technology is great, but also the personal touch, the tangible things are really, really important. So do not lose focus on that as well.
I think that's been a running theme through our conversation, actually, is how technology builds and supports humanity, right? We've got to keep that
Exactly.
personal touch all the time. That's been really great. Um, Favorite food, Massimo? Got to ask, Italian chap like yourself, what's your favorite foods?
You said we have only half an hour. You
I
want to
know.
speak? So I usually cook, and actually yeah, I should cook a bit less, honestly. Um, I love to do pasta. I love to do risotto. I love to do my own lasagna. I make my own pasta
Wow.
fairly frequently. So my girlfriend really loves it, although she says, "Okay, we should slow down with this." Uh, and I like to try new recipes. And I like very simple food, so fewer ingredient. Last night I made a pasta with Napolitan meat sauce, and that was fabulous. It's as simple as it can get, but it's very tasty.
That's
And uh,
great
this is,
ingredients.
yeah,
Got to get great ingredients. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. Where is your favorite place that you have visited?
Favorite places. So it really varies depending on where you are in your life, where you
Yeah.
are in mood and so forth. I was really, really fascinated by Moscow. It's an amazing. The people are amazing. It's an amazing place with a lot of contrasts. I like Miami a lot. I like a lot Cannes, Nice, Saint-Tropez. So the beach is great, but it really depends on where you're at. I mean, Paris, you cannot really go wrong by going to Paris. If you can
It's
catch a
beautiful.
concert or you go to a museum, that is. I was there for a late Tribune conference this year, this May, and me and my girlfriend arrived relatively late. We were there just for a day, so we start walking around the Seine. We found this hole in the wall. They were serving only seafood, but literally they have three tables. So you got this tower of oysters and clams and so forth. And that was amazing. We got a couple of glasses of champagne. I said, yeah, you cannot beat this. Looking over the sand, we wanted, and the fun part is we wanted to have foie gras. They ran out of foie gras, so they went to the restaurant across to ask if they had foie gras. So they were closing, so they kept it open for us. So we ran across. Those are experiences that you cannot buy anywhere.
Just that is the travel experience right there.
Exactly.
That's why we do what we do, and that's why we keep everyone connected, isn't it? Brilliant.
Exactly.
Massimo,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I can't thank you enough. It's been an absolute pleasure. We will do this again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this opportunity and to having me talking for almost 45 minutes. So thank
It's
you
been
so
great.
much.
It's been great. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.